I'm really honored that you're all here today, and I want to thank you for the time and the energy that you took to come. Some of you from a distance and some of you from nearby. It really means a lot to me, and I appreciate your generosity and your support. I heard last week about a new research, and it was about what we're scared of in life. So I'm sure that was a very long list. I wonder if you could guess which two hit the top of the list. One was public speaking, and the other, of course, was death. And I wonder if you could guess which one came number one on the hit chart. Public speaking. So you know that I didn't sleep very much last night. I have a few announcements I want to make. That this is what is called a book launch in the book trade, but it's also a belated housewarming for the Driveshed. We never got around to having one, and we thought people might like to have a look at it. It's been lots of fun, and it's still lots of fun, so I'm glad you're sharing that too. Feel free to look around and just take it in. My co-author, Marilyn Boynton, isn't here today. She's down in Nova Scotia making a Christmas visit to her mother-in-law. So mothers get in on lots of activities here. I have a few other announcements, and that's that Marilyn and I are going to give a workshop on the mother-daughter relationship next April. It'll be the 7th, 8th, and 9th, which is the second weekend in April. So anybody interested in talking about your relationship with your mother, or maybe your relationship with your daughter, that's might be a good time to come. Please feel free to pick up any of the brochures here that are about the book, or they're about the Driveshed and what it offers, and there's some there about the Balladins. My daughter Cindy lived with us for a couple of years, and while she was here, it was a great opportunity. She did all the finishing of the trim. She's a carpenter, so it was very handy. She wanted to be able to finish her degree at university and work in the time, the odd hours that she had to work. So it worked out very well for all of us. And while she was here, she had all her sound equipment up there in one of those lofts and was going back to composing her own songs and learning how to use the sound equipment and how to lay down tracks, they call it, and make a tape. And then she met Ron Bramall, who's sitting here in the front row, and he also was composing his own songs and singing them, and they got together and started singing around this area for maybe a couple of years now, I'd say, something like that, maybe a little longer. And in October, they put out a CD that's also for sale, and they call themselves Balladins, and they gave a concert in Port Dover. So they're going to sing today some of the songs that they've composed and that are on the tape. Some of them maybe aren't on the tape. And I'm thrilled that they're going to do that. They're great. They're just a great pair, and their songs are great, so I know you'll enjoy them. Lastly, I want to thank all the people who've helped today. The major one, of course, is my husband, Victor, who's been a very faithful partner all these years. And another one is my grandson, Matthew Woolley, who's over here at the table, and he's one of my main support systems, too. And a friend of mine, Joan Woodall, who's in charge of all the food, and she came last night, and she and I have been kind of falling over each other, doing all the last-minute preparations. And then there's my neighbor behind you, who's Jennifer Earls, and she's going to help Joan. So thank you so much. I want to introduce myself more by reading you a story, and you'll understand why I'm reading the story after I've read it. So, without any more ado, family stories have always fascinated me. At an early age, I was my mother's hired girl, as we called them on the farm. It was Depression years, and my father couldn't even pay the mortgage, let alone hire help for my mother. It was Mother's job to take care of the fruit on the farm, the picking and the canning. So I was co-opted to pick the other side of the raspberry rows, which seemed to go on forever on a steaming hot summer's day. A day that was meant to play let's pretend in the shade of an old maple tree, whose roots grew above ground, making fairy castles where I could plant small flowering weeds and create paved roads with small stones. My mother would dress in a flowered cotton frock with cut-off socks on her arms to protect her from scratches. She always reached through the bushes so I wouldn't get scratched, though likely it was because I was a much slower picker. While I hated the chore and would rather be playing, she always turned it into an opportunity for closeness and sharing. "Tell me about when you were a little girl," I'd beg, and she was happy to comply. She was a writer and the family storyteller. Being one of 10 children, the well never ran dry. Often I would ask for stories of myself and my siblings. Fruit never tasted so sweet again in my life as those days we picked it together. Sometimes I ate more than I put into my basket until she chided me with, "There'll be none left for pies or jam." In this way, those sweet days were stored, to be relived in the winter blizzards by the black monster wood stove in the kitchen, jam on her fresh out of the oven bread, or pies made with home canned fruit. Memories linger on in my nose and my palate. Nothing since ever quite comes close. I miss her presence in those days. This sharing of family history carried over in many other ways as well. When I was sick in the winter, my bed was covered with a crazy quilt my mother's sister Mary made for her one Christmas. Mother had given her many scraps of material from dresses and suits, outgrown and outworn. They were garnered from many different family members. My imagination peopled the quilt with the stories Mother told me about her family and herself as a little girl, how she saw things, what she played, what she thought and felt about her world, and how it was different from mine. And among the odd-shaped pieces in the quilt were some from the flowered cotton dress in which she picked the raspberries with me. I was warmed and comforted by these memories, these ongoing threads of ancestors throughout my life, and I still am. I'm sure that's why I was drawn to studies in family systems theory and therapy, and why this interest becomes more deeply embedded with the years. So here I am today with a book about daughters and mothers. How like the crazy quilt that represented so many extended family members. This book is filled with many women's stories of their life journey with their mothers, the sweetness and the sorrow, all the human feelings and experiences that make us real to each other. So that's who I am, and you know quite a lot about me by now. And I would like to read a couple of stories by other women that are in the book. I'm not going to start with the introduction because that I think you'll understand it better a little later on. I thought that maybe every hour the Balladins might play and I might read a couple of more stories. So if you're still around, you'll hear more, and if you're not, at least you'll have heard some. But the introduction is an ancient story of Demeter and Persephone. And this goes back to before the days of Homer and who are some of those other guys that wrote down all the ancient Greek legends, whoever they are. Plutarch or something? No, wait. Anyway, I'm not an ancient history person. But I did look up a story that goes back to almost before the story was written down that you're familiar with. So you won't be very familiar with this story, which is really the first story that I know about, a daughter individuating from her mother. So we kind of use that as a thread throughout the book in the beginning of each chapter, there's a little paragraph that refers back to that story. As I say, I'll read that one a little later. But I think there comes a time in everybody's life, and it's probably around age 30 or over. It might be a little younger, but it's apt to be 30. And you wake up one morning and you look in the mirror and you say, who is this? And how did I get here? You know, where I am today. This isn't what I thought my life would be like. So you start to think then, so how did I get here? And what do I want for my life? And what don't I want for my life? And that really is, that's really when you begin your own journey into your own underworld. When you're getting in touch with who you are and why you're in this world, or what you want to do with your life. And I think the Demeter Persephone story is just a very poetic way of saying the same thing. So if you read between the lines, or you put yourself into the story, then you'll see the connection between Persephone and yourself. And I want to read a story of a young woman who tells about a dream that kind of started her life journey, because very often I'll read this paragraph that precedes it. Dreaming can be an inspiration for this work, with symbols as metaphors to light the way. A grandmother dream almost certainly announces the beginning of the descent into our underworld. Here is a dream of a young woman entering therapy. I dreamed I was looking for something in my grandmother's basement, old cookie cutters and baking pans for a church rummage sale. While looking through the musty cupboards, I discovered some old treasures which excited me. Among them was a large black heart-shaped cloisonné box with gold trim and colored flowers on it. I felt the expectation that it held something very important, and then I woke up. On the next visit to my therapist, I told her how furious I felt that I hadn't been able to see what was inside the box. With her help, I returned to the dream and saw the box. Breathlessly, I opened the lid. I could clearly see two small objects, an acorn and the skeleton of a tiny animal. That's very interesting, because one of my friends here today brought me a little present, and it had some acorns in it. So they're pretty important. I burst into tears, shocked and disappointed. I had expected a magic key to the meaning of life. We worked on the dream. As a child of about 6, I remembered how delighted I was when my father showed me a nest of baby squirrels. He put them in a small box for me and allowed me to play with them. They seemed like living dolls. But they didn't act like my dolls. They wiggled and squirmed and had minds of their own. I did what I knew parents were supposed to do. I punished them. Even now, I cry when I remember calling them naughty and spanking one for trampling on another. My father discovered me and took the squirrels away. I felt very ashamed. While I felt I had done something bad, I was also confused about why it was all right for my father to spank my baby brother, but not right for me to spank the squirrel. The image of the tiny squirrel skeleton had literally opened a skeleton in my closet. I carry a heritage of abuse. My parents thought babies became good by cruel spankings. The acorn, well, my mother's maiden name means oak twig. The family even had jewelry designed with oak leaves and acorns. The acorn in the box felt like hope for me, a promise that I can plant a new tree with my life. I can help others live better, happier lives. Isn't it interesting that acorns are nourishment for squirrels? The two objects in my dream, in the box of my dream, represent for me my real inheritance, shame and hope. I got what I wanted from the box after all. Oh, that's how she got started, and she probably has like a whole book about her story. I think it'd be great if the Balladins would play some music for you.
Please feel free to get up and drink and eat and talk. We're just background music.
Now that she's really leaving, out of your hips, don't you wanna know the reason? Before you make new plans, so you won't make the same mistakes again, so you won't end up where you've just been, between a rock and a hard place, in a circle of heartbreak. Yeah, there's lessons to learn yet. Rock and a hard place, circle of heartbreak. What we give is what we get. So you'll take another. She might try her hand, roll of the martyr. That won't heal the child within the man. You think she's the one. She might be a pillow to dream on. When you take more than you give, that's no way to live. Still caught between a rock and a hard place, in a circle of heartbreak. Yeah, there's lessons to learn yet. Rock and a hard place, circle of heartbreak. What we give is what we get. It's a shame you didn't stop. Think about it. You didn't think it through more carefully. 'Cause give and take, it's no mystery. There's something to learn before you be free. Break out of that rock and a hard place, and that circle of
they're talking and eating and drinking.
There's more eating going on here on the floor. Victor, get your tray.
Drawing pictures in the sand today, the way we used to do. Brought back the flood of memories when I first met you. Though we both have changed, feeling still the same. It'll be alright. You and I'll make it work out right. 'Cause I know that this is meant to be. Nothing's gonna change the way I feel. 'Cause I believe in you and me. Pictures in the sand don't last too long. These kind of feelings do. And I know there's another life. I want to spend it with you. This love that goes beyond. There's no stronger bond. It'll be alright. You and I'll make it work out right. 'Cause I know that this is meant to be. Nothing's gonna change the way I feel. I believe in you and me. It'll be alright. I believe in you and me. It'll be alright. 'Cause I believe in you and me.
Blue skies. We'll do one more.
on. Did you turn it off?
Chapter of the book, just before you go, or if you go, when you go. Stay as long as you like. And the last chapter is called Hello Woman. Saying goodbye erases labels. The dutiful one, the rebellious one, the smart one, the stupid one, the beautiful one, the ugly one. They're endless. We can choose how we want to reconnect with Mother. These choices are varied. We may be friends, we may not like each other but remain distantly connected, or if the relationship is too toxic, we may choose to withdraw, not out of revenge, but from our need to protect ourselves. Saying hello means to see Mother as another woman and equal. This can change other relationships too. Here, women tell us how their relationships changed and continue to change for better or for worse. Bernice's story. In her family of origin, Bernice felt like the ugly duckling, the dumb one, the scapegoat. Roles of the smart one and the beautiful one were already taken by older sisters. Someone needed to carry the opposites in order to bring balance to the family system. So Bernice dutifully complied. Some years later, she declared in a letter her resignation from this role. Dear Mother, I'm going through a very introspective time in my life, trying to figure out who I am, apart from being your daughter, a wife, and a mother of 3. I have invested so much time in trying to be what everyone else expected that I lost much of me along the way. I never developed or grew, and as a result, I've been a very scared and dependent person all my life. I think she's talking about me. Now I'm finally learning to trust myself, accept myself, and even love myself. I feel like a small child taking her first steps. It's all very frightening, but promising too. This letter is a declaration of my independence. I'm not trying to change you or even punish you, but rather, I'm telling you that I am an adult and expect to be treated with the same respect as any other adult, and that at long last I have cut my own umbilical cord. The key to our individuation is no longer needing to see Mother in her role of mother, but as a person with whom we are equal in our womanhood. Then we can remember the old relationship and create a new bond based on equality. Cutting the emotional umbilical cord does not mean being completely independent. It means claiming the choice of when to be independent and when to be dependent. Interdependence is the freedom to choose. Cutting the cord means to free ourselves from the roles we played in our families as we grew up. Roles that may keep us feeling unsatisfied in our relationships today. Often we still believe that our roles define who we are in the world. As human beings, we carry within us our best and our worst, the bright and the dark side of ourselves. In most families, these qualities become personified in individuals, the golden girl or the black sheep roles. When we are children, roles can provide a stable system in which to grow up. As adults, we may challenge these limitations, expanding our potential for wholeness. A crisis in the family provides an excellent opportunity to initiate change. Usually, crises are viewed as disasters happening to us. In retrospect, we may feel they were blessings in disguise, opportunities to be individuals in our families of origin, not just in our roles as the smart one or the dumb one. For 2 long years, a Cold War had been carried on in Bernice's family, the woman that wrote the letter. While the adults barely spoke, the ones who suffered the most were the grandchildren. 2 years was an eternity to them. Feeling like an inadequate daughter, Bernice was very fearful of confronting a critical mother and an overachieving father. Out of her despair, she realized she had to take a stand for herself. Bernice's letter instigated the breakup of the deep freeze and challenged everyone's position at the same time. Until now, Mother had been the family switchboard operator. All interactions were processed through her. Dad's favorite one-liner had been, "Speak to your mother." This time, however, he wrote Bernice a long, warm letter telling his story of how the Cold War began, how he hated it, how he wished it would end. He expressed his love for his daughter, his son-in-law, and his grandchildren. Mom sent Bernice a critical, even a vitriolic response. Once on her own path, however, Bernice didn't waver or crumble. In the therapy room, she confessed, "I love my mother, but I don't know if I can ever like her." The ripples created by her letter kept reverberating. A large family celebration was coming up, offering a great way for Bernice's family to meet with the grandparents for the first time in 2 years. Intense feelings could be diffused in a safe environment. Bernice's original goal in therapy was to achieve a reunion of the two families. Now she discovered that she had changed in the process and was considering other options. Realizing she had been too meshed in her relationships with family members, she studied her own motives more carefully. She repeatedly asked herself, "What do I want, even if it displeases my parents?" She could have said, "even if it pleases them." She learned to protect herself from much of Mom's criticism by limiting the length of their conversations, by meeting either on Bernice's turf or on neutral ground, and by engaging in safe topics, the weather or the grandchildren. Bernice felt ready to invite her parents for a weekend. It turned out to be a pleasant event. At one point, she and her mother happened to be in Bernice's bedroom. "I'm glad these last 2 years are behind us, Bernice," Mother began. "You and your family have had enough trouble to last a lifetime." "I always felt guilty for our problems," Bernice replied. "I thought we should be like you and Dad. You always seem to get along so well." "Well, we are enjoying each other right now," Mom said, "but we've had our hard times too, you know." "No, I didn't know," Bernice said. Bernice was silent, but Mom had revealed as much as she could. Still, it was a first foray into becoming equals, perhaps possible friends. Instead of the usual critical parent, inadequate daughter dialogue, it was a peer-to-peer exchange. Bernice presents a snapshot of the growth process she was fully engaged in for 2 years. "I'm learning to grieve for the little girl in me who felt that she owed her life to those around her. I tried so hard to be a carbon copy of Mom. I thought it would make me more lovable and acceptable, but I'm not like Mom. I am me, apart from being anyone's daughter, wife, or mother. Whoever me is, it's as if I stopped developing emotionally at 3 years of age. Growing up after age 30 is not easy. Learning to love myself has proven even more difficult. And it's nothing that anyone can do for me. I'm slowly beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel." And I think maybe I'll stop there. There's lots of other stories in the book, and they're very wonderful and very encouraging and very touching. So you have to read the book. Thank you. I really want to make a request and ask that the Belladins sing Blue Skies one more time.
I forgot my pick.
Matthew over there requested this song. I don't play this song.
Well, stand there. I got three now. I've got three
You
picks
found it
now.
out in the grass?
Baby, baby, don't be blue. It hurts me so to see this in you while your heart's mended. I'll lend you a hand, but baby, baby, don't be blue. Baby, baby, don't you weep. Just close your eyes and slip off to sleep, and then dream, dream of some never, never land. But baby, baby, don't you weep. don't you cry.
Don't you cry.
While I sing for you this simple lullaby beneath the stars scattered across this evening sky. But babe, babe, don't you cry. Baby, baby, don't be blue. It hurts me so to see this in you while your heart is mending. I'll lend you a hand, babe, babe.